What's up, guys? Wow, that was very aggressive. Madison Chirilla here with Horse Training by Madison, and today I want to talk about training your barrel horse and starting out. This is just for starting a horse. If you have a horse that already knows barrels and you bought it and you want to train it a little bit differently, I'll have a separate video for that, but this video is just for starting out a barrel horse, young or old. The first thing I want to say is don't be too picky. These horses can't speak our language. They can learn cues and, we can teach them things, but they can't, if we just say, turn the barrel, they're not going to know what that means. They just know what we've taught them. They only know what we have taught them. And that is something I say all the time to all the people that take lessons from me, or to my sister, or to my friends that ride. That, these horses can't just know what we're thinking and do exactly what we have in mind. They only know what we have taught them. When we start training a horse, we can get really frustrated because we get really excited and we want to succeed. And usually we see a lot of potential in a horse and we just want to get to that end level where we can make those runs and enter in the 4Ds and stuff like that. But it takes time. When you do get frustrated, I made a blog post about this on www.horsetrainingbymadison.com, but it's about changing the way we think. Changing the way we react. Those kind of go hand in hand, especially with what my whole horse training is about. But we always have the option. We always have the choice on how we react to a situation, whether we are super angry or super happy about it. But sometimes when we get really upset or frustrated, we don't always act in a way that we're so proud of later. So how I've dealt with this, because there's so many times I've gotten very frustrated, gotten after a horse, and then later regretted it and, realized, hey, they're just an animal. They only know what I've taught it so far. And if they're failing or struggling under me in the saddle, it's usually my own fault. And sometimes that's a hard thing to swallow, but getting out of our own way, swallowing our pride, and knowing these horses are just trying to please us and they get just as frustrated as we do. So if we can take away that part, that reaction to our anger, and just take a moment, take a deep breath, maybe take a walk, maybe take a lap around the arena, or I know at some local arenas or at your house, you can walk around your driveway, walk around the outside of the arena. Just take yourself away for a minute, take a deep breath, remind yourself that you are doing your best and so is the horse. And sometimes that can help, so we're not just oh, that horse messed up, I'm going to stop right there, I'm going to back it up, and then I'm going to run and do it again. Usually when we get that stressed out or the horse gets that frustrated, you're not going to find any success. So my first tip is take yourself away from the situation you're in if you find yourself getting really frustrated. And don't be afraid to, if you just keep struggling and you don't really get to a point that you wanted to get to in the ride, that is okay. There's always tomorrow. There's always next week. That doesn't mean that you don't want to end on a good note, but that means maybe go spend 10 minutes letting your horse eat some grass and just having a little talk with your horse, That's a good way to end on a good note, but just because you had something in mind, what you wanted to get done that day, and if it ends up not going that way, that is okay. It is totally okay. We all struggle. When you do find yourself in a frustrating moment, when you're trying to turn the barrel and the horse is not understanding what you're doing, go back to what a natural state a horse would think in. Put yourself in the horse's hooves. But I think that we get a little bit hung up on trying to get these horses to think like we do. I keep telling you to do this, but it's not. You keep kicking out your hip, and I'm telling you to correct it, and it's not understanding it. Maybe the way you're trying to ask that horse to do that is not very natural for that horse to understand. So my tip would be go back to what you think is natural for your horse. So, for example, if your horse is not wanting to have shape around the barrel, and you keep drilling and drilling and drilling shape, and then all of a sudden you add speed, and you find your horse just going right back to wanting to drop that shoulder. Let's take a minute and think about that. Maybe that is what's most comfortable for that horse. Or maybe when you're asking it to do that maneuver, when you're asking for shape, when you're going into a run, just like a horse kind of goes into their muscle memory, so do we. And if that horse is wanting to shoulder, you're going to find the person almost is mirroring what that horse is doing. They're kind of leaning in to that barrel and kind of trying to duck out of the way, just like the horse is ducking. So there's two things to think about. Either one, the horse naturally doesn't want to have shape around that barrel, and that doesn't mean that it can't have a great barrel turn or be a great barrel horse. That does not mean that at all. That means that we need to set up a different type of, we need to figure out what is your horse's turning style, not your turning style, what is that horse's turning style, and then go from there. And then number two, maybe you are almost, doing the opposite of what you're trying to do. And when you do go into that run mode and you make a slow run and it has shape and it makes perfect, even wide circles around the barrel, and then you go to a run and it wants to drop its shoulder in, we could also be mirroring that. So there's two things to look at there, and a good way to recognize possibly if you are the problem, meaning you're ducking into the barrel and that's why that horse wants to do, look at videos of yourself riding. And this goes for anything, any issue. I'm just using this as shouldering as an example, but look at videos of yourself riding, and that will really help. And if you do see yourself kind of falling into that barrel, well, there you go. Now you know, okay, my body language is telling otherwise. And then another thing to keep in mind is when you do all of a sudden change your posture, when you're staying centered and when you're asking that horse to go past the barrel without dropping its shoulder down, that will take time. Your horse is not going to automatically, it's muscle memory. If you've been doing that for the past month, that horse is going to be used to that. Just like your body, it's going to be really hard for you to tell your brain not to do that anymore. But when you do, just give your horse some time to learn that that's not what we're going to do anymore. So this might sound a little bit weird, and I'll do my best to explain it. What I'm going to say is let your horse fail under you. And what I mean by that is when you go into a barrel and you sit right and you sit centered and you keep your hand up, you're not dragging out, you're not pulling up, you're not doing this, that, or the other, but you're sitting correctly, and that horse isn't following what you're doing, but as long as you stay strong in your correct position, that horse will soon understand where its body is supposed to be. So when you're going around a barrel and that horse is just burning out in the hind end and is not understanding it, or is doing whatever, there could be so many darn different things a horse could be doing, but I use kicking out its hip a lot because I see that in a lot of big barrel horses. Is their front end is going one way, their hind end is kicking out. It's almost, I like to think about it as a semi truck when you have to make a wider turn. The first thing on the back comes around, and then you got to think about the hind end. Same thing with a horse. A lot of times their hip will come out. So when you're, okay, I'm going to use this as an example. If your horse is kicking out its hip, it's not staying in line, it's not keeping its hindquarters under it, and you keep stopping it, backing it up, and doing whatever you usually do to correct that, that will not be successful. If every single time a horse is failing and you're backing it up and you're trying to correct it, if you think about it this way, you stop, your horse's brain is kind of stopping and it's getting flustered and it's frustrated, it knows it did something wrong, but it's not understanding quite what it did wrong, or it keeps trying to do one thing and we're not sending the message we're trying to send. So what I mean by let your horse fail under you is stay stationary in that perfect position. If your horse is drifting out and you want to pull it back in, don't do that. Stay right where you're supposed to stay. And that doesn't mean like you can, if you drop your outside rein and your horse's hip kicks out and it's overcorrecting on it with its head, if it's overturning its head, you can give it a little guidance with the outside rein, but don't be afraid to let your horse feel a little uncomfortable under you, because if we don't fail, we'll never succeed. There's trial and error. So when you ask that horse to lope to the third barrel and you're planting your butt in the saddle and you're holding your hand right where it should be. I usually like to say for every horse it's a little bit different, but generally you want your hand towards your hip. You want to kind of pull straight back to your hip towards your saddle horn. And that horse may struggle under you, but that's okay. If you stay strong in your position, that horse will learn where its body's supposed to be. Basically, what I'm trying to say is don't stop your horse mid-run. If they're doing something that you don't want them to do around the barrel, don't stop them right there. Let them go on. Let them feel a little funky under you and just stay where you're supposed to be. You want to stay consistent so that your horse can become consistent. Wow. Excuse me. And I know that's a little bit difficult for people because they're like, it just feels so bad and they get frustrated. But once again, we choose how we react. So don't stop your horse in the middle of the run. Don't get after it. Just stay strong and act confident. Even if you don't feel confident, fake the confidence, because that horse, when it's struggling, is looking for you, its owner, its mom, its dad, and its rock, which is you. Everything that we do for these horses, it kind of revolves around us. So if we act confident, we act like we know what we're doing, and it's okay for them to feel a little bit uncomfortable and they don't get in trouble every time they fail, they're going to learn a lot faster and they'll understand what you're trying to ask them to do if they're able to do the maneuver and they're not stopping every single time that there's a problem. Just like if you were learning something new, like the guitar, and you fumble over, you can't get a certain chord or something like that, and if the person that was helping you out would be like, why can't you get it right, or slaps you across the head, or does whatever and tells you, no, don't do that, that's not going to be very successful. You're probably going to want to try to find somebody else to take those lessons from. Or even a better example, working out. If you are struggling and you can't do a certain move or you can't do it as fast, and that person basically is yelling at you, telling you like, why can't you do that? Or they're getting frustrated that you can't do it. You're going to feel bad about yourself. You're not going to feel confident. You're not going to be excited for your next workout. You're going to be nervous. You're going to feel not good. And just like the horse, the next time that you put it in the trailer and take it out, it's not going to feel so good because it's like, oh no, what if I do something wrong? I'm going to get in big trouble. And, when horses act up and be naughty, it's okay to correct them. It's okay to get after your horse. But when you're teaching a horse, try not to discipline your horse too much in a negative way. Okay, apparently I'm just having all sorts of issues today. My face itches, I'm sweaty, I burp. I'm a human being, I'm not perfect, so bear with me. But I hope this is all making sense. Let's try to remind our horses that it's okay to fail. It's okay for things not to go right all the time. Just like in our lives, nothing always goes right. And if it did, and it was a perfect world, well, gee, there wouldn't even be a heaven. So that is one of my big tips. I know this probably isn't exactly the video you're thinking it would be. Probably you'd think it would be more technique, but I don't have a technique. My technique is different for my technique is all natural, going back to the natural state of the horse, and that's different for every single horse. But this is universal for every horse out there. These are things that I have found that really have helped me have faster and better training results. And I'm hoping they help you too. So these are just my main few tips to having a successful start on a horse. If you're kind of in the beginning of a journey of teaching it barrels, if you can get these things down, other things will come a lot easier. And if you're still, everyone's going to struggle. So if you're struggling with your horse and you really don't know what step to take next, or you don't know what's going on or what you're doing wrong or what the horse is not understanding, that's what I'm here for. I want to help you guys come up with a exercise plan or training plan that will help your horse and you. And if you have 3 horses, I'll make 3 plans for you guys. If you're feeling stuck, I'm here to help you. So don't be afraid to reach out. I'll have you send me some videos of your riding and even a phone call to talk about it, or some emails. Or if you're close to me, we can meet face to face, meet in an arena, and I can evaluate your riding and stuff like that. But if you're out of state, that doesn't mean that we are limited or I can't help you. I can help you just as much. So if something didn't quite make sense or you want me to elaborate more, once again, comment here. email me. It's horsetrainingbymadison@gmail.com. That's on my blog, which is www.horsetrainingbymadison.com. You can find my Facebook page, which is Horse Training by Madison. You can contact me there. My phone number is on my blog as well. So I am here to serve you guys and help you guys be successful. That is my main goal. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it made sense, and there will be lots of videos to come soon. Bye, guys.